J.M.I. Gallagher, horror author from Bull City, North Carolina.
Yes, sir. Durham, Bull City.
What is that like? What is Bull City? It sounds so cool.
Yeah, because it is cool. Durham, North Carolina is probably the gem. It's a little known secret to anybody outside of the state, but everybody knows Raleigh. A lot of people know Chapel Hill, but not as many people know Durham. Durham is this dirty little tobacco town that blew up when the tobacco boom hit way back in the day. And it's a very industrial city, but it's really come into its place. And I'd say around about 2009, 2010, when the economy tanked, the city hit it really hard, but in the past 10 years, it's come back and, a million places to eat, a million things to do, a lot of great venues to see bands and things like that. It's just a dirty, rough town. Their motto is keep it dirty, Durham. It's a great place.
Cool. Yeah, because you hear about so many places like that have once thrived and then they die and they never come back. Probably like Albany, New York is one of those.
Yep.
They're all over the place.
Absolutely.
Syracuse, too.
Yeah, Syracuse. Even Detroit for a while was on the downcline. So.
Yep, absolutely.
How long have you been writing, JMI?
Many, many moons. So the interesting thing about the writing that I've done is that when I was a much younger man and when I was in college, when they invented the internet, I actually sat down and probably typed 2 novels worth of material with an IBM Selectric typewriter. And back in the day, you had to send your stuff off to publishers, and you would wait and you would wait and you would wait. And frankly, I ended up just chucking that stuff out of frustration. And so it wasn't until, I guess maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I picked it back up in earnest. And I've kind of been going strong ever since then.
Cool. And what are your books? Is your series 3 Bad Things?
So the first book that I've put out is 10 Bad Things, and it's a collection of short stories. And I'd say it probably classifies better as weird fiction rather than horror. Some of them are a little more horror bent, but other ones are just bizarre. I've always been inspired by the old Twilight Zone series.
Right. I love that
the old
series.
black and white Twilight Zones, the X-Files, all that good stuff. So it leans more that direction. I've got another one coming out sometime in the near future here. I'm just wrapping it up. Trisha Martin, you guys have had her on, is doing the cover work for that one for me.
Cool.
And I've got another novel in the pipe as well behind that one, but it doesn't really fall into that category of horror at all.
Is it like a totally other genre?
No, actually, what happened was when I put this book out, it was really well received, and in particular, there's a story in this collection called Forever Well, and it's sort of about a bizarre little town and one particular incident that happens to these 2 boys. And in that story, I had a lot of people respond with the whole question of, well, what happened to those guys? Because, spoiler alert, these boys get buried alive. And the thing of it is that the well that they fell into, the water grants immortality. So they're buried alive immortally.
Oh,
wow.
Oh, man, that is hell.
That is
hell.
And so the question I got from people is, what's going to happen, and at what point are those 2 boys going to climb out of that hole pissed and come back for vengeance?
Yes.
And so I meditated on that, and I've got that going on in that one story turned into a whole book in and of itself.
Cool.
But it delves not just into these 2 boys and what tragedy befell them, but rather the poison of small town life. So it's dealing with a larger theme for sure, kind of the hidden stuff that goes on behind the scenes in what otherwise looks like an idyllic town. And so we're going to find out what happens to those boys and the guy who buried them. So
nice.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
just that setting, for whatever reason, immediately makes me think of Hot Fuzz.
Well, that's definitely
yeah.
Twilight Zone-ish, too.
Yeah. And for me, I don't know if you guys are big fans of this, but have you watched the original Twin Peaks?
I
No,
never got
I keep
into
meaning
it.
to because it sounds really interesting, and I'm always seeing stuff about it, and I'm like, I have to sit down and watch
I did
this.
watch the first episode with
With
you.
me,
Yeah.
it's like something. If I didn't get into it, it's been on for a while. I'm just not gonna. And that was kind of the way that one was.
I gotcha. Yeah, if you can force yourself to sit down and watch maybe the first 3 episodes of it, it starts out kind of slow, and you're like, what is this going to be about? And then all of a sudden it takes this hard dogleg right, and you go, what just happened? And it's at that point you can't put it down. And
Nice.
the whole thing behind Twin Peaks is very similar to that sort of like what's going on under the surface. Otherwise, it looks like a relatively normal, kind of clean-cut place, but there's a whole lot going on underneath. And that's the story Forever Well is going to turn into a book that covers a lot of that. And a lot of that is inspired from small town Southern life as well. My wife and I are originally from the Midwest. We've been down in the South for going on almost 20 years. And small town life is definitely different than any other life
Does
that
it
there is. Big
just
city
feel like
life,
the
suburban
town-
life.
It just feels like the town's plotting against you all the time.
You know what? You come across some really unique situations. That's all I got to say, without incriminating actual towns. But yeah, you come across things where you have these experiences in small town life, and you say that's unbelievable. Like I would expect that maybe in New York. I might expect that in a like in Cleveland or somewhere like that. But I wouldn't expect that in the small town, and yet it happens. And so it's kind of crazy.
Nice. As a writer, J.M.I, do you find a certain time of day or year more productive?
No, I don't. See, this is a good thing about what you guys do and what I do. Nobody really puts money in our pocket to do it. We just do it because we love it.
Yeah.
And if we end up getting paid, that'd be fantastic.
Yes.
And my books sell, and that's good. But I think any writer will tell you, you don't make mad cash unless you're like J.K. Rowling and you sell the Harry Potter series.
Yeah.
So we do it because we love it. And when it comes to inspiration, that gives me a lot of freedom to write whenever it takes me. But I would say this, that David Lynch, the guy who wrote the Twin Peaks series, I was listening to some seminars he did, and one of the things he said is you follow an idea. You go fishing for an idea, and then you let the idea lead you somewhere. And I would say that the majority of my writing is like that. You guys asked me to share a story a little bit later, and I will. And just to give you an example, one of my younger daughters kept waking up like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. This was years back, and 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock, she'd burst into our room and she'd be screaming about stuff incoherently. Kids get like night terrors and things like that.
Yes, my
Dude,
oldest son used to get those.
I used to get those when I was a little kid. They're fucked up.
Yeah, it's just the worst, right? And as a parent, it's also insane because you're in this deep sleep. You got to work in the morning.
Yeah.
This kid, kicks your door in like a SWAT team, screaming about stuff. And after about 2 weeks of this, and pretty much losing my mind, I was laying in bed one night after she had done this, and I thought, kids do this a lot, but what if there was a reason that the kid was coming in? What if she was seeing something that was actually there that we weren't seeing? And so I actually that fed a whole story that's in 10 Bad Things.
Nice.
And so the inspiration, when do I write? I write when it comes to me. Sometimes you sit down and write 15 sentences. I try to write maybe 15 to 30 minutes a day. And if I do that, that's great. If not, that's okay as well. I would rather catch a good story.
Cool. I was going to say, too, I saw you're a professor and all that. Do you ever, stop in the middle of work to just jot stuff down? Because, I always carry paper on me. And
all the time.
Sometimes the ideas come to you, just you could be doing anything, and all of a sudden it just comes to you.
Oh, all the time. And I, ghetto is one of my key tenets. So I go to Walmart and I buy the cheapest. They sell those little 3 packs of 89-cent notebooks.
Yes.
They're maybe 3 inches by 2 inches, and I just keep one in my breast pocket. And if something comes to me, I'll just stop, write it down, or I keep one by the bed and wake up at 3 a.m. and think I got a brilliant idea and write it down, only to wake up and it says something like carrots on fire, and you say, I have no idea what I was thinking.
I did that once,
but,
yes. I woke up in the middle of the night
Yep.
and I had an idea, and it just said like something like this. Yeah, carrots on fire. Like I was like, what? That's not.
Yeah, you wake up, you're like,
that's
this
not
makes
good
no
or fun.
sense.
Yeah. Oh. James, would you be able to read us an excerpt from one of your writings?
Absolutely, man. I would love to. Give me 1 second here to grab a page and read something for you.
Cool.
All right, so I'll actually I'll start out here in the this story is called "I Want a Puppy," and since I don't have time to read the whole thing, I'll just bring you up to speed. So this young girl has been waking up late at night and complaining to her parents that she's wanted a puppy for a really long time, and she keeps telling her parents that she's seeing some kind of big dog in the hallway late at night. And so this is her waking up probably the third or fourth time to bother her parents about it. "Daddy," she screamed. "Daddy, the black spider dog is back." She flung open the bedroom door and leapt onto the bed. Startled by the screaming and commotion, Mr. Beeman sprang from his bed, smashing his toe against the bedpost. "Emily, what in the name of all is good are you doing?" He glanced at the clock on the bedstand. The digital display read 3:22 a.m. He cradled his head in his hands, overcome with frustration. "That's it. Tomorrow you're going to the doctor, and we're going to get this taken care of one way or the other." With that, he grabbed his pillow and comforter and stomped out of the room, mumbling curses and turning off all the lights as he went. He spent the rest of the night on the couch in the den. The next day, Mr. Beeman made good on his promise. He called off work and made a doctor's appointment for Emily. They all sat silently in the waiting room of the pediatrician's office. Mr. Beeman was half asleep, his head bobbing forward and then snapping upright as he repeatedly nodded off. "Beeman, the doctor will see you now," said the receptionist. A nurse met them at the door and walked them down the hall to a vacant room. Not long after, their family doctor, Dr. Pullman, entered, flipping through Emily's chart. "So you're having some trouble sleeping, eh?" he said, with a warm smile on his face. He was an older man, a seasoned physician. "What's keeping you up at night?" "Yes," she answered, through a haze of exhaustion and embarrassment. "I keep seeing a monster in the hallway. It looks like a big dog and a spider, and it has an eye and—" "Really, tell me more," said Dr. Pullman, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. Emily recounted the entire tale. She told him about the sound of rain, the strange shape-shifting spider creature, the need for light, and of course, the fact that her parents were mad at her for waking them up all the time. "Oh, I don't think there's anything to be mad about here. Losing sleep certainly isn't any fun." He grabbed his yellow pad and wrote down a prescription for some little pills. That night, around the dinner table, Mr. Beeman's spirits seemed to have been lifted. He held the prescription in his hand as he drove. He waved it victoriously and beamed. "This is the ticket to a good night's sleep, Emily," he said. "We'll get this filled right away, and tonight you're not going to see a single monster in that hallway. No one else? I'm not going to see a single child all night." "No, Daddy, I don't want medicine," she said, terrified by the thought of being asleep and unable to defend herself if the monster returned. "Oh, you'll take it all right. I'll not fall asleep at my desk at work again. Your monster in the hallway is going to get me fired." Suddenly, a flash of anger surfaced. Mrs. Beeman patted him on the knee, attempting to calm him down. "Okay, Daddy, I'll take the medicine," she said weakly. "That's my girl," he said. "Tonight we'll all sleep much better." That night at dinner, Emily ate slowly, occasionally glancing across the table with a small tan bottle of pills in front of her father. She had developed a plan. She would take a pill right after dinner, and instead of swallowing it, she would hide it between her cheek and gum. Then she would go straight to the bathroom and spit out the pill. It worked wonderfully. She had concealed it easily and was relieved when she finally washed it down the drain. Even without the pill, she felt rather tired. It had been a long day with the doctor's appointment and so many nights of missed sleep. She crawled into bed, tucking her My Little Pony-themed blanket around her neck, and quickly fell asleep. Later that night, her parents made their way upstairs. It had been an exhausting day for them as well. They were more than ready for bed, and hopefully they'd have a full night's rest for the first time in what seemed like an eternity. They stopped in the doorway of Emily's room and looked in. "She looks like a perfect angel," said Mrs. Beeman. "Look at her poor little eyes. They have such dark circles underneath them. I hope she's okay." "Oh, I wouldn't be worried about her anymore," said Mr. Beeman. "She's going to sleep like a fairy tale princess tonight." He laughed softly and gave his wife a wink. "What do you mean?" she asked, sensing that he was hiding something. "Nah, nothing really. I just crushed up an additional pill in her drink. The directions on the bottle said she could take 2 if one wasn't enough. I wanted to be absolutely sure we'd all sleep well tonight." "Oh, David, you're such a stinker," she said, laughing softly at his clever maneuver. "Well, if it's safe, I suppose it won't hurt anything." They switched off her light and headed for their room. That night, Mr. Beeman turned off all the lights, and with great satisfaction. He had taken a hot shower and crawled into bed, cuddling up next to his wife, who was already slumbering. Not long after everyone had fallen asleep, there was a stirring in the guest bedroom. The salmon-colored bed skirt quivered, and the bed jostled about. From underneath, a black, amorphous blob began to unfold and spill into the room. The soft sound of rain filled the air. The creature bent and contorted until 4 long legs, an eye stalk, 2 antennae, and a long, spiny tail burst forth. It crept forward, its eye rapidly taking in the environment. It recognized every thread of carpet and fingerprint on the doorknob. Moving swiftly to the door, it poured itself underneath the 1/4-inch crack and out into the hallway. Making its way toward Emily's room, its heart rate quickened. Hyperintelligent, it recognized its owner immediately. The smell, the sounds, the facial features, the sound of her unconscious thoughts ticking like a clock. She was asleep, dead to the world and buried underneath a mound of covers. The eye focused on her, monitored her, breathing and temperature. It knew something was different about her. The creature climbed on the bed and crept carefully up to her face, prodding her playfully with its antenna. It wanted to fetch a stick, chase a ball, or gnaw on a bone. Its little master was asleep and would not wake soon. It gave a soft, frustrated whine and muted yip, instead turning its attention to the door across the hallway. Leaping from the bed, it softly slunk to the door of her parents' bedroom and listened. 2 humans were in there, breathing deeply and sleeping soundly. They would make an easy meal. It slithered under the door and began to work. Hopefully its master would wake later, and they could finally scamper about together, Emily and her brand new puppy.
Wow. Love it.
That was awesome.
Oh.
So good. So good. Thank you, James. I was going to ask if you could tell us what JMI stood for, but it's James Michael Irving?
That's a good guess, James Michael Ian.
Oh, wow. Close, close. I didn't know if you'd have
Very
to kill
close.
me if I guessed it right. So I'm still...
Yeah, you're pretty close.
Cool, cool. That's awesome, dude.
James, I was gonna ask, what are you a professor of?
English grammar and composition.
Do you ever work your books into the curriculum?
You know what? No. Most of the time, it's kind of a pre-generated sort of thing that we're responsible for shoveling into students. You know, the boring stuff is the English grammar. I don't think anybody, even grammar professors, like English grammar. It's the composition part that I like, is, you know, just being able to help kids figure out how to write properly. So many people can't communicate worth a lick. So being able to do that for students is a great pleasure, actually.
So you teach grammar and then you go home and write, and it's completely like ungrammatical, like it's not following any of the rules.
Break the rules, kids.
You know what? That's actually a good question. You know, even as a grammar professor, you still make lots of mistakes, and so it's always kind of humorous sending my stuff in for editing and having it come back to me with lots of red marks all over it, thinking, you know, I should know better.
Wow.
But yeah, you know. Yeah, you still end up making lots of mistakes, and I get plenty of junk about that for sure. Like, shouldn't you know how to write? Yeah, I guess I should.
Yeah, technically, but
Yes, technically I should, but oh well. What are you gonna do?
James, did you have lunch with 2 dead Siamese brothers?
Yeah, I did have lunch with 2 dead Siamese brothers, actually. I don't know if you guys are big into you guys are probably big into weird, right? I've listened to enough of your shows. You're big into the weird.
I like the weird.
So,
Love the weird.
You like the weird. The weird is good.
Yeah.
I've been a huge fan of sideshow stuff, like back when freaks were like a real thing,
Yes.
and not just like the junky carnivals you get now with the tilt-a-whirl. The like real deal, you know, people with actual deformities and things like that. So way back in the day when P.T. Barnum and Bailey existed and they had their sideshows, there was a couple. It was two brothers. They were Siamese twins called Chang and Eng Bunker.
Yeah.
Yes,
And,
I've heard of that.
Yo,
I
got a question.
what's that? Yeah.
No. Have you ever been to a place called the Mutters Museum in Philadelphia?
I have not been yet, but I've been a lot of places, and that is one I have to go. It's on my list.
Dude, they have a plaster cast of Chang and Eng there.
Oh, cool.
And they have all kinds of crazy shit there. Like,
Can
Stuff.
he finish
Crazy stuff.
Can he finish his story now, Slambo?
no, okay. Dude,
No, you're fine. It's cool. They actually put it's mainly gas, but down in Wilmington, North Carolina, by the coast, it's like 2 hours from where we live. They put in a museum of oddities there as well, but it's mainly gas. It's somebody took a really ridiculous like half a fish and stuck a half a monkey on it to make a Fiji mermaid kind of thing.
Yeah. All right.
But I'll still pay $10 to go look at that stuff.
No.
So,
this place is nuts. You got so there's this. All right, so there's this like one corpse there, right?
Yeah.
This lady was so fat when she was alive. She was so huge, and I'm not trying to like. I'm not
trying.
I'm not like making fun of fat people.
No.
But this woman she was so large that the soil in Philly turned her into soap. They call her the soap lady. You've got to see this. It's like, it's crazy.
That sounds awesome.
Like she's just a chunk of soap.
Nice. It's worth seeing.
You got to see it.
Are you able to like pay an extra fee and chip a little piece off to take home for later?
No.
I was gonna want to watch with her.
No, because there's all kinds of other crazy shit for you to see there.
Would watch with or?
No, man.
Is there a shower scene?
No. There's like deformed fetuses.
Yes, they have the pickle punks.
They've got like a whole. Got a whole like wall of pickled fetuses.
Yes.
Different shit.
That sounds exciting.
Stuff.
It's creepy
nice.
Stuff. But like if you're into oddities, go see
there.
It. Yeah, go see it.
All right, it's on my list. Easy done. I mean, how many stories are going to come out of that, right?
I'm going to mute his mic now.
Yeah. No, man, I'm telling you. I'm telling you.
There's so many voices. I don't know who I'm talking to. There's like I know Robin Slim, and then there's this guy with a beard in the background.
That's who you got. That's who you got right now, James.
I muted his mic chains, and he's now leaning into my mic to talk to you.
I'll keep doing it.
He's the Slamborghini, and
that's all I have to say right now.
It's all he has to say.
All right, fair enough. Yeah. So anyway, these guys were born in Thailand. Then P.T. Barnum bought them up, and they went on tour everywhere. And they stopped in this little middle of nowhere podunk town called Mount Airy, North Carolina. It's not really as podunk now. It's really nice. But anyway, their grave is there. Got these little brochures alongside of it. And little known fact also, Andy Griffith's show. Y'all remember that show?
Yes.
Andy Griffith's show. The Griffiths are from Mount Airy as well, and like Aunt Bee's Diner and all that stuff. It's all in Mount Airy. But anyway, I could care less about Andy Griffith when I got a couple Siamese brothers to eat lunch with, if you know what I'm saying.
Yes.
So that's what I did. I sat down and had lunch at their grave with Chang and Eng Bunker. And dig this, they both married different ladies and then had 21 kids between the two of them.
Wow. Are any of them around?
The logistics are mind-boggling.
Yes. That shouldn't even be possible. They were breeders, the Angs.
They definitely were.
Clearly, they were not just farmers. But yeah, so they just settled there. They bought up a bunch of land and everything, and I guess their descendants still live around in the area and whatnot. But that's where I was today on my way north. I made a bucket list stop to hang out at their grave for a little while. Good
nice.
time.
Awesome. James, we have to wrap this up, but it has been a blast talking to you, man.
Absolutely, man. It's too bad we didn't get to talk more about hanging with Lucretia.
Yes, I did.
Your
episode of that is amazing.
To be able to do it.
Your episode of hanging with Lucretia is amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, Trish is awesome. I put the script together for that. We ran up there, did a 3-hour deal. You guys are next, so I'm actually working on a script. I'll be talking to you guys. Hopefully, we'll get you into that show. We would love to have you be interviewed by Lucretia.
We'd love to. Yeah, we've been in the talks with Trish and Gordon, and yeah, they just said they're real busy this time of year, but we'll definitely make it happen.
That sounds great.
Where can everybody find you, James?
Where can everybody find me? At 3 Bad Things on Twitter. You can also go to Amazon.com and type in 10 Bad Things, J.M.I. Gallagher, and you'll find my book. There's a little Amazon author page that goes along with that as well. And you can poke around YouTube and find bits and bobs as well for J.M.I. Gallagher.
If you want another bad thing, he's got a beard and he's in the corner. You can come get him at any time.
Yeah. I'm going to do bad things to everybody.
Thank you, James.
Including these two, but when you're off. Not so you can hear it.
You're the worst.
All right, fellas.
I'm the best.
Thank you, James. Have a good one.
James.